Alright, what's going on? So it is this kid, and today is January 26th. So we're gonna go over the patch notes that came out on January 25th, but they just got implemented today. We didn't go over them last week just because there really wasn't much of substance last week, but today we got the goods. We got a lot of stuff going on. We got some stuff that mages probably won't be too happy about, but overall pretty good balance changes, and also a lot of nerfs to raiding, Nathria, and a lot of mythic dungeons as well. But yeah, let's go over it. So let me just say, first of all, if I don't go over something, it basically doesn't mean much. So there's a lot of basically just bugs that happened, and they're fixed. We don't really worry too much about those, but we want to worry about things like nerfs, huge nerfs to a lot of bosses in Nathria. So, Council of Blood, first of all, there were some changes to basically if there were smaller parties or raids in Raid Finder, Normal, and Heroic. Mythic stayed the same basically. There were no nerfs for certain things like this. But I'll make that distinction when I talk about them. So, Dreadbolt Volley from Council of Blood, damage reduced by 20% for these smaller raid sizes in these three difficulties, Raid Finder, Normal, and Heroic. Same thing for Drain Essence, reduced by 20%. Dark Recital duration reduced to 6 seconds was 7 seconds. Not a huge deal there, but that's only for Normal and Heroic. Sludge Fist, nerfed a little bit. Colossal Roar damage reduced by 10% on Mythic only. Chain Slam and Chain Bleed damage reduced by 35% on Mythic only as well. Stone Legion Generals. Stone Legion Goliath health reduced by 10% on Mythic difficulty. Stone Legion Goliath's Ravenous Feast cooldown increased by 6 seconds on Mythic. The rest of these Mythic changes as well. Health reduced by 6%, damage reduced by 20%. These are all just nerfs. They are only Mythic for these first four, but yeah, just only nerfs here. And that's kind of the same with most of these patch notes. Let's go on. We got a Heart's Rend range increased to 300 yards, was 10 yards, but then there's a change here. It no longer applies Heart Hemorrhage to the player that dispelled the magic effect on Mythic. General Call and General Grishal spell cooldowns now reset with phase changes. That's kind of just a rework, not exactly a buff or nerf, but makes everything more fluid. Volatile Stone Shell Absorb Shield reduced by 20% on Mythic. That's about it for Nathria. So we'll go into Mythic Dungeons. There were changes for last boss of Plaguefall, the Margrave Stradama. Plaguebound Devoted health and damage reduced by 40%. Reduced the cast frequency of Infectious Rain during her final phase. Slightly adjusted the timing of Plague Crash, so there's a little bit more time between tentacle slaps, which is going to be very nice because there are random people on that party that just keep dying for no reason. Sanguine Depths fixed an issue. We won't go over that. Crixus the Voracious, severing smash damage reduced by 20% on all difficulties. Essence Absorption damage reduced by 20% on Mythic only. Executor Tarvold, fleeting manifestation, health reduced by 20%. Spires of Ascension, really just more nerf here, all over the board. So Spires of Ascension, Necrotic Wake, actually that's going to be the last one. So Lachesis, Klotos, and Astronos are no longer affected by Mythic Keystone affixes that trigger on death, which is really, really nice. So even less things to worry about. And all those guys, Oppression now increases damage taken by 1% per application, was 2%. For Necrotic Wake, there's just a ton of nerfs. I don't want to even go into all of them because it's basically almost every mob in the instance. Blightbone, Carrion Worms, Blood Gorge applications required to trigger Carrion Eruption increased to 5, was 3, so nerf to that as well. Amarth, reduce the range skeletons are summoned. Unholy Frenzy attack speed bonus reduced by 20%. Reanimated, all of these reanimated minions had their damage reduced. Cast time increased. Yeah, so really huge nerfs across pretty much, I don't want to say all mythics, but a good amount, half of them. But now we'll go to some of the PvP changes, and this is where a lot of the stuff that people are pissed about or people are talking about is coming from. So in 2v2 arenas, dampening will begin at 20% when both teams have either a healer or tank. I think this is really good because the healer DPS games just last, they last too long with dampening starting at 0%. So it's good that they have a little bit of a push in there. I talked about this change before, but I just don't like the fact that dampening starts at 0% at all. It does help double DPS teams a little bit, but overall I don't like the change. I think off heals are generally too strong right now. Maybe this would be very good in the future to implement something like a 0% dampening at the beginning. But right now the off heals are just too strong, and basically any hybrid class can act as a healer, and it's annoying playing a healer basically. But moving on, players now deal 20% less damage to Death Knight, Hunter, and Warlock pets. Very good for specs like Demonology. Hunters and Death Knights are also going to be very happy about this. Unholy Death Knight specifically. Fleshcraft can now be used in the starting area. This is amazing because I honestly don't know why you ever had to use it out of the gate. But just really quality of life change right there. And then this one really doesn't matter. Minecarts and Silver Shard mines took damage for some reason, don't know why, but they can no longer take damage. This is a big change. This is one that a lot of people are talking about. So Convoke the Spirits no longer cast Full Moon and Feral Frenzy when engaged in combat with enemy players. So that being said, I think that Balance and Feral, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is going to be better to go Kyrian. The Kyrian ability is basically going to allow them to give one of their partners a 20% damage boost. And that's really good too. It was arguably on par with Convoke from the beginning, but just the fact that you could basically one-shot someone randomly with things like these just made it, you had to pick it. But now I think a lot of people are going to be switching to Kyrian, and maybe not. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, I think that's how it's going to go. Paladin, Holy. Divine Favor, cooldown increased to 30 seconds was 25, and now increases cast time speed by 30% was 60, so it got reduced by half. Nothing really to say about that. I think Holy Paladins are still going to be incredibly popular, still going to be the best healer in the game. We saw AWC, Holy Paladins were taken over, and even the ladder, we're seeing Holy Paladins everywhere. But, maybe they'll change something else down the line, but I don't think this is going to be enough really to make anyone switch away from that. Protection and Retribution. Word of Glory's healing has been reduced by 20% when engaged in combat with enemy players. Great. Awesome. It's really annoying to just have either a tank or an off healer be able to lay on hands instantly. I think it should be more, specifically. But, you know, sorry. But you know, what can you do? We'll see how the 20% reduction does. I still think it's going to be too much healing, but only time will tell. Especially with gear, it may not matter too much either. So Mage, this is another huge change. So Infernal Cascade has its effectiveness reduced by 33% when engaged in combat with enemy players. This is a huge change. Basically, all of Mage's damage is, well, specifically Fire Mage's damage, it's all in combustion. And Infernal Cascade was a huge part of that. It gave you a buff that basically increased your damage by 20% when you're in combustion. The effectiveness was reduced by 33%. So overall, it's just going to be a huge combustion nerf. I think they should kind of balance stuff out with increasing damage outside of combustion, but we'll see how this change goes. I think maybe we'll see some people switch to Arcane, because I think Arcane kind of matches the meta a little bit right now. There's huge burst windows, and it's also going to have the added benefit of having a little bit more defensive power with Temporal Shield, and that's going to come into play with this nerf here. So Triune Ward now provides 50% barrier effectiveness when engaged in combat with enemy players, was 65. So a nerf to Triune, like I said, Arcane Mages have that Temporal Shield if they're worried about defensive abilities. But we'll see, you know, only time will tell. Fire may still be the best. I think it actually still will be the best, but Arcane is right there, really, you know. We may see some people swap over, but maybe not, because you would also have to switch your Covenant, more than likely. There's so many things that come into play with that, but I think these nerfs are pretty good, honestly, for Mage. Balances them out a little bit. They were, you know, doing a little bit too much burst damage. Yeah, it's nice that things are kind of getting balanced. It just sucks that it's only Mages right now. I think the Convoke change was pretty good. I think they should have done maybe a little bit more. But just taking away Full Moon was definitely a good change. As far as Holy Paladins or Red Paladins go, I think the Holy Paladin change was basically going to do nothing. Almost feel the same about the Word of Glory change. It is pretty big, 20%, but you know, I think we're still going to see a lot of Prot Paladins basically being healers in Arena. Red Paladins being able to just lay on hands if they have wings on. But yeah, we'll see how everything balances out. But those are the changes, really. There's some stuff for Torghast. Nothing really to go over there. Stuff with the Maw. Nothing to go over there. But that's it. Just as a reminder, I do have a Resto Druid guide coming out. Be on the lookout for that. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like it, and you guys have a good rest of the week. Thank you.